A common question posed to graduate students is whether psychotherapy is a science or an art. Although this question would seem to suggest it's either one or the other, psychotherapy is actually both. Psychotherapy is an art because it takes skill. It takes skill to create a warm, safe, trusting environment. In short, that empathetic bond that is necessary for a client to open up and look honestly at their life and situation. There may be differences in how easily this skill comes to different clinicians, but it is still an artful technique that everyone needs to learn and develop. Of course, as you're well aware, feedback is critical to the process of learning and development. As you are also aware, psychotherapy isn't just a couple of people sitting around chatting about life. Therapy is a goal-directed behavior. The purpose of your therapy sessions is to assist your client in attaining constructive and positive changes in their lives. You and your client want to eliminate the behaviors, perceptions, and thoughts that brought your client to you. In their place, your client wants behaviors, perceptions, and thoughts that'll bring them closer to living a life free of pain and distress. Helping your client achieve these changes requires the knowledge and understanding of behavior and mental processes that you learned during your training. Psychotherapy is a science because it is through the quantitative and qualitative processes of science that we learn about and understand the mind and how it expresses itself. It is the scientific side of your profession that has developed the techniques and the tools you need to successfully achieve the client's goals. Different people become therapists for different reasons. There is one reason, though, common to all. Therapists become therapists because they want to help others. This desire to be successful at helping people is so powerful that most clinical students don't even consider the financial success is another way to gauge the success of their practice. Often, it isn't until a therapist opens their practice that the relationship between attracting clients and paying bills becomes evident. Even then, many therapists, unlike physicians and dentists, are reluctant to view their practice as a business. Physicians or dentists, on the other hand, have no difficulty in viewing their practices as businesses. They understand one simple fact. In order to increase their profit margin, they must have to build a strong reputation for success, which will increase the number of patients they see. For therapists with private practices, the key to financial success is drawing in a stream of clients. The first step in improving your business is to take an honest look at your practice. But before you can do that, it's necessary to take an honest look at psychotherapy. Psychotherapy is effective. Over the last several decades, studies have consistently demonstrated that, compared to those not receiving any treatment, 80% of those who have completed their treatment were successful in attaining their therapeutic goals. The positive news is tempered, however, by the fact that these studies only measured those who completed their treatment. Attrition has typically been overlooked in these studies. This is an important consideration, given that 47% of clients, that is nearly half, only attend the initial session or drop out before completing treatment. A program's success isn't only a measure of the outcomes for those who complete it. Success is also the ability of programs to prevent clients at risk for further deterioration and dropping out from doing so. Measures of success need to include helping the more difficult cases to remain in therapy until they achieve their therapeutic goals. Although they play a critical role in the therapeutic process, research has demonstrated that all therapists are not equal in their success. One study found that top psychotherapists had improved rates 10 times greater than the average therapist. This wide range in therapeutic efficacy was not predicted by factors such as age, gender, years of practice, or theoretical orientation. Instead, one of the strongest predictors of successful outcomes is the strength of the therapist-client alliance. This alliance appears to be valuable in engaging clients in the therapeutic process, as well as keeping clients from dropping out. As it turns out, The top psychotherapists are very good at quickly establishing a strong bond with their clients. It is reasonable to assume that most therapists wish to be highly effective with their clients. It is also reasonable to assume that if the typical therapist were to discover an approach that would increase their treatment effectiveness, they would adopt it. PCOMS is such an approach. The underlying premise is simple. Feedback improves performance. The validity of this premise is easily demonstrated in a wide range of activities. For example, feedback is effective for improving athletic performance, learning to play a musical instrument, increasing the ability to solve math problems, and acquiring a language. Given that so many human activities benefit from feedback, it stands to reason that feedback will be beneficial in the clinical situation. Lambert and Associates have investigated the effect of 3 types of feedback upon treatment outcomes. They explored the impact of therapist outcome feedback, client outcome feedback, and feedback upon the therapist-client alliance. Compared to no feedback conditions, each of the feedback conditions demonstrated improved outcomes. However, the greatest outcome improvements occurred when clients were able to provide their therapist both outcome feedback and alliance feedback. Although all clients benefited, outcome and alliance feedback had its most dramatic impact upon clients who were at risk of dropping out of therapy. For this group, providing feedback reduced deterioration by as much as 2/3 and doubled improvement rates relative to the group that did not receive feedback. Nearly 2 decades of research has consistently shown that regular feedback on session outcomes and the therapist-client alliance is a key predictor of successful therapeutic outcomes. Having tools at your fingertips that can easily provide you with this information can help improve your practice. Insight into the client's perception of their relationship with you will help you identify how to strengthen that relationship. Having the knowledge provided by this feedback will help you reduce attrition rates, thereby increasing improved outcomes. Regular feedback about how the therapy is progressing can help you assess whether the processes you are engaged in are working or if they need some tweaking. This knowledge is critical to helping you to tailor the therapy to the unique qualities of each client. Being able to personalize treatment more effectively will help you to achieve successful outcomes more quickly. Remember, your practice is helping people. Increasing your reputation for achieving successful outcomes will ultimately put you on a solid business footing. Using industry standards such as those provided by MyOutcomes will tell potential clients that you are committed to working with them to find the most effective and efficient therapeutic strategy that will help them achieve their mental and emotional health goals. That is a winning strategy. Over the last few decades, outcome-informed therapy has been evolving from a conceptual framework to an operational framework. The earliest tools for measuring feedback tended to be cumbersome. They were multifactorial and they took a considerable amount of time to complete. This proved to be problematic because, as it turned out, these are 2 critical factors that have been shown to be impediments to integrating outcome measures into any practice. Research has found that simple, straightforward tools are more effective than complex tools that measure multiple factors. Research has also found that a longer a survey tool takes to complete, the less likely it'll be used. The negative correlation between time and usage compliance is in part due to the fact that, to their own detriment, many therapists view these only as measurement tools rather than therapeutic tools. Dr. Scott Miller and Dr. Barry Duncan replicated the earlier findings using the outcome and alliance feedback measures that they had developed. These measures were briefer and easier to handle than the earlier feedback scales. In fact, it is the elegance and simplicity of these highly reliable and valid tools that has helped increase the usage compliance rates as part of the routine clinical practice. Included in SAMHSA's National Registry of Evidence-Based Practice and Programs, MyOutcomes automates and extends the clinically proven partners for Change Outcome Management System developed by Scott Miller and Barry Duncan. MyOutcomes is so effective at fulfilling its promise of helping clinicians implement the FIT model that it is now partnered with over 3,500 providers throughout the world. MyOutcomes consists of two 4-item, easy-to-use scales. These can be completed with the updated results available to the therapist in less than a minute. The Outcomes Rating Scale, ORS, is given to the client during the start of the session and provides information about the client's individual functioning, interpersonal relationships, and social role performance. The Session Rating Scale, SRS, is presented to the client towards the end of the session and measures 4 components of Borden's traditional description of the alliance. The SRS gives the therapist insight into the client's perception of the therapist-client relationship and the degree of agreement about the goals and tasks that exist between the clinician and the client. Because MyOutcomes automatically analyzes responses and maps them against age-adjusted norms, it is capable of quickly reporting actual versus expected improvements and detecting problems in the alliance. This information enables the clinician to immediately address potential problems and make any necessary adjustments to the treatment plan if needed. In his research at Northwestern University, Kenneth Howard, PhD, demonstrated the trajectory of change in successful therapy is predictable. As it turns out, even slight improvements during the initial sessions predict successful outcomes. On the other hand, the longer the duration without any change, the more likely there will be negative outcomes and dropout. What this means is that alongside the therapeutic alliance, early change is the best predictor of successful outcomes. This is why having tools that are sensitive enough to measure the client change and the strength of the therapeutic alliance can lead to increased client success. Thank you. The ORS and the SRS are such tools. The ORS measures client changes. The clinician can use that information to make necessary adjustments to the treatment that will maximize change. The SRS measures the therapeutic alliance. If that alliance is weakened, the therapist can take steps to make sure that there is a strong alliance. MyOutcomes client-driven management system has been shown to be highly feasible for clinicians, and its technology is easily implemented. Most importantly, it has been repeatedly demonstrated to dramatically improve the quality and efficiency of services. That is why research has demonstrated, and clinicians who use MyOutcomes know that consistently measuring the client's progress and their impression of the therapeutic process brings improvement in client outcomes. MyOutcomes engages and retains difficult-to-reach populations, with deterioration decreasing by as much as 33%. Cancellation rates can be reduced by as much as 40% and no-shows by 25%. Dropout rates decrease by 1/2. Success rates can be increased by 65% in one study, while there were increases of 100% in other studies. MyOutcomes is the web-based platform for the Partners for Change Outcomes Management System, or PCOMS. The merging of technology has made accessing and using the power of the ORS and the SRS fast and easy. In fact, MyOutcomes is so user-friendly that it can be readily adapted into any practice. After logging into MyOutcomes as the provider, you will see a screen that has a left and a right field. In the left field is a collapsible and expandable tree. Clicking on the triangle next to the provider name will expand the tree so that the client groups are accessible. Creating client groups allows the therapist to organize their clients based on similar treatment protocols. Clicking on the triangle next to a client group will open a list of all clients in that group. Moving the cursor over the provider name, client group name, or client name, and right-clicking results in a drop-down menu of all the options available at that level. Moving the cursor over the name and left-clicking will open the console page associated with that name. When logging in, the user's homepage will open on the right side of the screen. It is easy to navigate different levels by clicking on the names listed and the return link in the upper right corner. All of the functions that are available in the tree are also available on the console page. This is one of many features that makes MyOutcomes a great choice for those using a smartphone or an iPad. There are several ways to access the client's console so that the client can take the ORS and the SRS. One such way is to click the client's name. The most prominent feature of the client's console is the expected treatment response graph. The graph plots the ORS and SRS scores for each session, providing a visual comparison of the client's progress. Other information provided are the clinical cutoffs of the ORS and SRS, as well as the information about the scores that fall above or below the expected treatment response, ETR. The expected treatment response is the predicted change in ORS scores over the course of a treatment based on a comparison of a client's ORS scores to the scores of the normative data based upon a pool of nearly 500,000 data survey results in MyOutcomes database. The ETR for clients is established when the initial session ORS baseline score is entered. MyOutcomes compares the client's baseline score to the normative data of others with a similar intake score. The expected or predicted change trajectory is then plotted on the graph. In the graph, the black line represents the 50th percentile, or the average amount of change that clients with the same initial baseline score have achieved over the course of treatment. Clicking on the ORS or SRS icon at the top of the page accesses the survey for the current session. The client moves the slider for each measure, and then by clicking the OK checkmark brings up a page that has 3 features. There is a graph plotting either the ORS or SRS against any prior scores. There is a table with the individual values of each measure as well as the plotted average score. Finally, if you choose to provide feedback when creating the client account, there is a feedback message to the client about their current score and how that score relates to the performance. Returning to the provider homepage, you can see the far right of the client's ID, a color-coded icon reflecting the client's most recent ORS score. Green means improving as expected, yellow and red represent less than expected. The information is immediately available to the therapist upon the client completing the survey. Clicking the icon takes the provider to the client's console and ETR graph. Some private practices take on a supervisory role for student practicums and internships. MyOutcomes has additional features that will aid you in student education. As a supervisor, you have access to all the information and options available to providers. You also have the ability to create multiple provider accounts for those under your supervision. At the top of the screen, there are several tabs with useful information. To the right is a tab labeled Dashboard. The dashboard provides information about key performance indicators that will help you in your role as supervisor. It also provides case alerts. All the supervisor needs to do is set the parameters for the scope of the information, and MyOutcomes will generate reports. The trend in psychotherapy is moving towards evidence-based practices that use a feedback-informed approach. This is why so many providers around the world have embraced MyOutcomes. These mental health professionals know that MyOutcomes has the resources to help them take their practice to the next level. In an era of accountability where funders are looking for evidence that money is spent effectively and at a time when everyone is seeking ways to lower healthcare costs, MyOutcomes is the natural ally of agencies, organizations, and those in private practice. With its advanced record-keeping and reporting, as well as its database of nearly 500,000 session surveys, there is nothing to match MyOutcomes as clinicians move their practices into the 21st century. In keeping with MyOutcomes' commitment to their alliance with the clinicians, MyOutcomes has an unprecedented amount of resources available to help the clinician improve their success rates. When you use MyOutcomes, you become a partner whose needs we take seriously. We go that extra mile to give you the training and technical support that fits your unique needs. Why not join us today? Sign up for MyOutcomes Essential or call us toll-free at 1-877-763-4775.